It always comes to this. Morning guys, back again to do another tattoo progress update today. Where I last left off, I showed off this chunk that Rick and I did in here. So it's just about to start peeling. It's like in between shedding in places and other places not. So some parts of it look more blorby than they will soon. It's kind of the worst spot, especially because we didn't do the black again this time, because the black's already pretty solid in there, obviously. It should be by now at 42 sessions. So the color that's in there is clearer than the black that's in there, which takes weight away from the black and makes the whole thing look a little muddy as it's healing. But when that sheds off, the black will reassert itself and the whole thing will look clearer. That's been something that has happened with multiple projects I've had ongoing over the last few years. I've observed that result where when you're putting like fresh colors up next to black, for example, the black has less emphasis for the moment, but then when things are healed, the black reasserts itself in the mix and the clarity more or less comes back. Anyway, that's 3 days now, so pretty well, like, you know, what you see is what you get. I find that the first few days, even before the peel happens, is when most of the shifting happens with color and black and white on black projects. So whatever you've got left after the first few days is generally a good sign of what you're going to have for the next few months or however long. And then if you want it better than that, you just have to go in and hit it again. And that's been the case with everything. Obviously, I had another session with Terry. We had a decent session. It's about 4 hours, I would say. So Terry and I average between, 2 to 6 hours, I would say. Whereas Rick and I average between an hour to 3. And sometimes we'll do a little more than that. Got a hair in my eye or something's driving me crazy. But, I don't blame either of these guys for their nature at this point. We had another guy trying to book a project with Rick who discovered us from my Instagram, YouTube shenanigans, and wanting Rick, I pointed him towards Terry instead. And, it's always the case that he may end up getting a better product out of Rick, but the guy was from Missouri and we're over here in Alberta, and it's a huge liability to bring people here for a 2-hour session. So, at least with Terry, you're going to get some kind of a product. So if you're inquiring about getting work done in Lethbridge from afar here, it's always going to be Terry that I'm recommending for that, for as long as we have him here. In the long run, I think we're going to have many different artists that I can, recommend for these kinds of things, but I don't think at any point any of them will be Rick, and it's not because he isn't the most qualified guy. It's just his way of working is not conducive to a trip from afar. Even bringing people in from a few hours out of town, I feel a liability on, just because, for example, we had a guy who come in yesterday, drove an hour in, and he had an hour session. So, it's not the best, and I'm cool to do that with him here because I live here and I work with him. And even before that, like, he and I have known each other for so long that it's like I like him more as a person than a tattooer. But to bring someone from that far, it's a no-go. Anyway, I'm not going to ramble on about that for too much longer. So when we committed to coloring in these roses, and because I'm a show, I'll show before I'll tell with mostly all of my tattoo projects. When we committed to doing the color version of these roses, what we also committed to was doing more black as well. And As you can see here, we've done that now. I didn't at any point reveal that was the direction we were going in, but I always think these things are like little social projects or like social experiments for me, where it's like I almost want to see now what the reaction is to every version of this. And one of the other tattooers at the shop here actually said, she's like, when you guys start putting those colors in the roses, I thought you blew it. Like, I thought you ruined the sleeve, and like you pulled it out. And it's like, by now you should know I have tricks up my sleeve. It's like, if you thought that the work was lacking some contrast, that it was too warm, it's like obvious that I was going to cool everything off. It should have been obvious that I had a plan to kind of bring the black back, or something that would further differentiate everything. And this is part of why I was a little bit apprehensive of doing this, because the minute you change one rose, it's not just changing one rose. Suddenly, the structure has to change everywhere. So that meant redoing the roses on my neck, and then it's going to mean second passes on some of the colors, and some places will need more than others. But it will also mean changing the background elements, because it's a new sleeve now, right? But when taken from afar at any distance, everything stands out more now than it did, not less. And for a moment, it may have seemed like this was the wrong call from a contrast, clarity kind of standpoint, if that was your focus, where the old roses were firmly clashing against the background with the grayscale that they were in, versus the deeper red, just by nature of color versus black and gray. It would seem like there was a lot of contrast there. And what I would say to that is that with color, you can always get more contrast over black and gray. You can always do it. There's because the thing is when you open up to color, you have every option. Whereas when you're just working in black and gray, you only have so many. So the minute you go full color, suddenly you have every option on the table. Now, what this has done for my neck, for example, is these now can be seen from down the road. And they will, because the black will hold. The black isn't going to just turn red, and then the red isn't going to just turn, my old black. There's probably someone out there that still believes that one day I'll be wearing a blackout tattoo again, just by nature of these things fading away. But by now, there's been so much structurally done to this that, even if any part of it faded off, it would just be a faded version of what it is now. There's no possible way that what could happen is I could wake up one day and have a blurry blackout. There's just no way. There's too much that has been done. There's been more work done here than possibly anywhere on the planet, to make sure that that's happened, or that happened, that it could not go back to factory reset blackout, unless I flattened the board myself physically and had all of my tattoos blacked out again intentionally. There's just no reality where that happens on its own. For one thing, some of the pigments that we're using are just stronger than black. They just are. There's this idea that black ink always wins. I heard that again the other day. It's like, black ink is the easiest ink to laser. It's the most reactive to laser. So it doesn't win there. It's actually easier to cover than a lot of colors. And I would know better than anyone, because I've had more of it covered than fucking anyone. And some of the colors that we covered from my first bodysuit, and now have covered again since then, are very, very resistant to being covered. If you go over yellow with blackout, it's almost always going to need a second pass. It's almost always going to need a second pass if you cover green with blackout. Some reds, you'll see the shine of the red underneath the black. Those things are stronger pigments than what's in black. They just are. And it's counterintuitive, and I don't really care. At this point, it's at that level where it's if you haven't done it yourself, you shut the fuck up. You don't know what you're talking about, and you haven't seen it. You don't get a voice on the matter. I had a 30-year tattooer come in and try and explain to me why in 6 to 10 years all of my work was going to be gone. And it's like, there's just no rationality to that. It's like when we get to 6 to 10 years, it will suddenly be, 10 to 20 years. Like, we'll just keep moving the puck. Because people would rather do that than just admit that they're wrong. It's very hard for people to be, to actively be wrong. Like, I have had no tattooer that claimed this wouldn't work come back and apologize for their ranting and raving at me. They're just holding out hope that it goes away. Can you imagine being in a state of mind where it's like you're actively hoping that things go wrong for someone? Like, why would it be such a bad thing for the industry if this was all as I say it is? Like, why would that be? In what world is that a bad thing? Like, there's no world where that's a bad thing. And if it is a bad thing for you, then you're too lazy and complacent and you shouldn't be in the industry anymore. And that's more or less what I told the guy. I have no problem telling tattooers who have that frame of mind, where to go and how to get there. I've been doing it for years now. It's interesting, when I started the Blackout tattoo, it was like, yeah, I had some I had some tattoo haters, like tattoo artist haters, but mostly it was like regular, like kind of civilian, or like people who aren't getting tattooed all the time that were, why would you get blacked out? Like, it was a lot of that. And now those guys are on board with what I'm doing, but it's the tattooers that hate it because it represents more work for them. And a lot of them just want to do Pinterest tattoos and make bank. That's what it's become. Like, it's almost like merchandising for some people, where it's like, I want to sell you a soft black and gray sleeve today. We can do this in, between 2 to 4 sessions, bring you in for a full day sit. We'll have lunch, It's almost like you're fucking buying a car or something. That's how a lot of people run it now. It's not the art form that it once was. And I'm more or less okay with this, by the way. But there are still moments when it should be okay to experiment and go off the grid for the betterment of the art form and the industry, the science behind it, and we should be saluting those guys, and not hoping they fail because we don't want the industry to grow. This idea, like, I've seen it also said that tattoos peaked in the 90s or the early 2000s and it's all down. It's like, we're still learning things every fucking day. What a cringy way to look at life. There's nothing left to learn, guys. It's all combed out. It's like, no, we're learning new things every fucking day. And if you aren't, then you should be. You should always be learning new things. And I won't have time in my life to try all the wacky ideas I have. There are things that I have contemplated since we started doing this whole project, since we started doing all this shit, where it's like, I have ideas that I may never get to act out. There's this AI tattoo pen that they're making, where it may be the case one day where I can just program a machine to live out some of my ideas, and it would be more self-sufficient for me to be able to do that. But even then, like, I don't think I have enough time in my life to try all of the different things that I think would work over my bodysuit now. Like, I have all these crazy ideas about lining in different colors and fucking filling, like shading with other colors, and in areas of black that were filled or that were lined, say, shading with green in an area that you lined with red, or, all these different ways to use colors to interact with the black and see what kinds of unique tones you can get. Because, whenever we do one of these things where we go in and we do layering and it pops everything again, and it creates more dimension than is seen even in typical bodysuits that aren't done over black, because that is a thing. This is like glow-in-the-dark tattooing now. We're getting like otherworldly tones that I've never seen any other way. That's just a thing. It's not me bragging. It should be that way by now. when you do this much work, you should be refining and you should be learning and growing, right? It should be like you're building on, almost like you're building on the foundation, and you can get farther from there. But like whenever we do something new like that, where it's like, oh, the game has changed again, it's like, then you're wondering how much farther you can go from there. And I don't think that there's an end to that. And so this idea that the industry has peaked, it's like, if you are a tattooer and you're thinking that this industry has peaked and there's nothing left to do, you are the problem and you should stop. Go do anything else with your life for a while. A lot of the time, it's like you've gone as far as you can go in a particular direction. That doesn't mean the industry has plateaued. That means you have. Maybe shake it up. Alex Rose, the guy who came through here a couple years ago, for example, he just comes to mind because he gets to a place in any style that he's doing where he feels like he can't get any farther with that style for a while, so he stops doing it for a couple years. He goes and does a different style of tattoos. He just recently started doing anime tattoos. He's not doing any more traditional, neo-traditional tattoos, no more realism for a while. He wants to clear his palette so that when he comes back to that, he'll have fresh ideas and a new mindset for it. More people should do shit like that, and I think that the industry in general would benefit from less complacency. I mean, I've said it before, and I'll say it again here, but if you're a successful tattooer, it really doesn't matter what the fuck you're doing. You're going to be making good money. So there really is no reason to just completely check out and just, put your blinders on and just barrel ahead. Like, you could even do one day a week where you try and challenge yourself to grow in a direction. And most of the guys that have attacked what I've been doing are the most checked out tattooers. Like, they just are. You'll go and you'll look at their pages, and it's like, oh yeah, rinse and repeat, same fucking thing every day. And a lot of times it's decent work. It's not to say that the work is bad. It's just, you can see that they haven't given a shit in a long time. They're just cashing checks. I know people like this. There's lots of them in the area. There's lots of them in any city. It's a lot of money for a little effort when you get good at it, if you don't want to grow. There are other guys, for example, like Rick is a great one to point out here, where that guy, he would be happy with $50 if he did something cool that day. He makes a good amount of money, but for him, it's like, all it is art. He's at home, he's drawing all the time. That guy got into this so long ago when it wasn't as financially lucrative as it is these days, and he'd be doing it for, bits of change if that's what it afforded him. He would do it anyway. But there are a lot of people who get into, especially I find high level black and gray realism, that literally just get into this to line their pockets. And fair play if that's what you want, but that is bastardizing the industry. And at some point, it used to be kind of about pushing the envelope and seeing what you could do with the art form. And that part of it is going away, unfortunately. So, as I said earlier, I think the people who are keeping that torch lit should be saluted, not fucking scorned or hated, or people shouldn't be putting banana peels down hoping they trip, And by the way, when you see someone doing something you didn't expect to work, the appropriate answer isn't to go, wait a little longer. It's to go, oh, I guess I was wrong. I've had to do this. You can go back and you can watch my first reaction to white on black tattoos about 4 or 5 years ago when I was doing black on black work. And it was like, I don't know if that'll work. It wasn't, oh, that can't work. It's like, we'll try that and see, and I could be wrong. And so you try it, and you don't go, oh, well, it's not going to fucking work. Like, no, you observe reality. You see that it worked, and you fucking admit you were wrong. That's how it should go. It shouldn't be the case of, oh, well, it's only good because, it's going to fail. Because it's like, use your fucking eyes, use your brain, think about this. Maybe you were wrong. How many times in human history have we been wrong? We've been wrong about almost everything. We've been wrong about almost everything we've ever thought. So why is it then possible, or why isn't it then possible that we could be wrong again? You know? Human arrogance baffles me. It's not just a problem in this industry, but it's a big one in this industry. There's a lot of ego. There's a lot of divaism with tattooers. There's a lot of fed cats out there, and there's a lot of guys that just, like I said, they've got their clientele, their pocketbooks are full, and they don't need to think about what else is out there. And when they encounter that, they assume it's just made up. Or I had someone say the other day, I'll put it in here because it's fucking hilarious if I can find it. Someone say that my tattoos were AI generated. They're all edited on. It's fucking preposterous. It's absolutely bonkers, the shit that people actually believe. I can barely say this stuff with a straight face. And these are all high-level tattooers positing this stuff. It's like, your guy down the road that just did your cool back piece, he's a fucking moron. He's a fucking moron. It's embarrassing. It shouldn't be the case. It should be like, oh, that's cool, look what they're doing. Instead, it's, oh no, that's AI generated. This video is AI generated. It's fucking crazy. Anyway, I'm ranting and raving. I'm having a good time. Clearly, this has been, a process. We're not quite done. Oh, yeah, I didn't even mention we did the gold thorns in there, too. But I think overall, for the best for this sleeve, we're actually going to be hitting the red again in a few weeks here. And then, we've got second passes on the colors. I've got a really cool thing coming up with Terry this next week, too. It's going to be another, I think, game changer for the suit. And I'll get into that more in the next video. So I'll talk to you guys again soon. Have a great day.